make us dependent? I mean, I guess they've got to bring us down before they remake us in their collectivist image.
Well, yeah, I mean, sure. When Lenin took power, his job was not to create jobs for people. Far from it. It was total control. Make the population dependent on government. The government is a matter of life and death with you. They decide whether you're going to eat or you're not going to eat, whether you get a bullet in the head or you don't get a bullet in the head. And that is, we're getting very close to that situation in America today. That's what I'm saying.
And people don't realize historically that once you get to this point, it's only a degree from where you go where we're at now, where they're lined up on our borders, the tyrants are, politically, to you move 1 degree and you're suddenly in North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of the cowardly population is going to just get behind all this because they're going to want their freebies. And then that's why they've doubled the number of people on welfare in the last 4 years. We are in so much trouble. We'll talk about drones when we come back and the latest Arpaio news. Okay, we are going to have in studio my good friend Bob Dacy, an expert on UN gun grabs and the UN treaty. He's going to be in studio with us coming up in the next hour. Joseph Farah of WorldNetDaily is our guest for this little short segment and the next segment. Don't forget the George Soros White House run group openly says they want our funding cut off at Infowars.com. They see Drudge as our only source of funding, which is pure foolishness. It's mainly subscriptions to Prisonplanet.tv and radio sponsors, and also people buying books, videos, the high-quality water filters we have at InfoWarsShop.com. And when you also go to WorldNetDaily and buy their books and stuff, that supports them. You need to vote with your dollars. We don't come and point guns at you and make you give us money and then give it to George Soros and banker bailouts, and then he gives it to all of his front groups run by White House operatives. We're here just saying, if you believe what we're doing, spread the word about the broadcast, buy the books, buy the videos, things like that, or we won't be here in the future. And, of course, that's their hope. So it's a fight, ladies and gentlemen. You vote with your dollars. Don't forget it. We're asking you to go to InfoWars and buy the high-quality products. Really good stuff there. It's what I use. It's what I watch. It's what I wear. It's all there. InfoWarsShop.com. The Pro Pure water filters, all of it. Prisonplanet.tv, 15-day free trial, $5.95 a month. It's cheap. The cost of 2 cups of coffee. That funds my entire TV division we're building. Going back to Joseph Farah, quick question here. We're going to go to break and come back briefly with the big news of Joe Arpaio that you guys were instrumental on covering and being part of with Dr. Corsi. The drone. I mean, you live out in a rural area, drone flies by, you talk about it, and all these groups attack you saying there's no drones. But then I've got Fox Nation reporting drones will dominate the skies in 2.5 years. Representative says at hearing, and all these videos are coming in on YouTube. Drones are all over the place, Joseph Farah.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you I've had another sighting, Alex, but it's not the case. Although I will tell you that every time I go to walk my dog now, I got my iPhone in my pocket, and at least I'm thinking maybe I should carry a shotgun, but usually it's just a handgun.
Well, especially, like you said, if they try to send one of those Obamanoid hit squads. What about the killings under Clinton where they would shoot the person 5 or 6 times, cut their arms and legs off, and Fahmy Malik would declare it a suicide?
Yeah, there was an epidemic of that kind of thing during those years. I mean, Ron Brown, who was supposedly killed in a plane crash, but had a bullet hole through the top of his head, and Vincent Foster, and all of those things. I mean, it's we got to decide if this is the kind of world we want to live in, continue to live in, or not. And I think we're running out of time, Alex. And like I said, it's not this presidential election that's going to make things right. This presidential election, to me, is only an opportunity to buy us more time to make things right.
It's like if you're being chased by 20 bloodthirsty wolves through the house and you kind of throw down a bookcase that's there in the hallway in front of them. That's kind of what you see Romney as?
Well, it's not like that. That's almost a perfect analogy.
But listen, why is Romney laying down then? I mean, I mean, Obama calls him a crook when Obama is involved in Fast and Furious.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not here to defend Romney in any way, shape, or form. I wish he'd be more aggressive. I wish he'd see the same things we're seeing and would tell the American people. But that's probably not going to happen. So it's going to be up to you and me to remind people throughout this campaign what this choice is all about.
I mean, when you've even got Rupert Murdoch telling Mitt Romney to get tough, you know things are in trouble. It might be a Don King match. We've only got 5 minutes left with Joseph Farah, WorldNetDaily, then we're going to have an in-studio interview. By the way, is Bob Dacy here yet? He's here. Very excited about that coming up in the next segment. Real fast, Joseph, I meant to get into this with you. Look, you know, Ammar al-Awlaki, number 3 in Al-Qaeda, secretly dining at the Pentagon with the Secretary of the Army 2 weeks after 9/11. On and on and on. Obama has the State Department get the underwear bomber on the plane. That came out on C-SPAN after our eyewitnesses, Kurt Haskell, saw it. Using al-Qaeda to take over Libya. Now Syria. Again, I mean, I know you know a lot about the Middle East. You cover it quite a bit. What is going on here? I mean, all I know is every time I turn around, the, quote, Muslim extremists are being funded by the CIA.
And that definitely concerns me. Because, you know, this may be the only point of departure we have between us in terms of disagreement. I actually think we are facing a real threat from, Islamic extremism. I believe there's an effort underway to recreate the caliphate that existed up until, the end of World War I. But this time it's going to be very
sure. I know there's groups, the Muslim Brotherhood, doing that. My point is, our government is putting them in charge in Egypt. You name it.
They think they can control them. They think they can, because they can't. These are not people who can be. They want to control us, and that's what it's all about. And believe me, you don't know what tyranny is like until you live in an Islamic republic. It doesn't get any worse than that. It doesn't get any worse than that in Nazi Germany or the Soviet Union. These are folks who have no regard for women. It's just. But
specifically, we were talking during the break. What about Homeland Security? My point is, they're using that threat, whether real, exaggerated, or whatever, to take our rights, and the whole thing's pointed at us.
That's right. And on that point, we totally agree. That was a terrible, terrible thing that happened during the Bush administration. Maybe the single worst thing that George W. Bush did was create that monstrosity because it doesn't do anything to protect us from that threat that I see that maybe you don't think is as real as I do. But instead, what it does is it goes after people like you and me. Each and every time, every memo that comes out, they're all the same. People like you and me. Returning military veterans are the threat, not terrorists.
Sure. So that's my point is, I don't want to hear about all day about the Muslims are going to get me when the whole thing is to take over and destroy the republic. And then you see that continuity between Bush, Obama. There's a larger globalist plan, and they use different groups to implement it, but they're just little government management teams. Briefly, what do you think of Arpaio's announcement saying, yes, this is a fake birth certificate? I mean, we already knew that, but it is newsworthy.
I thought it was very powerful, and beyond the additional evidence that they raised with the birth certificate itself, which was, by the way, shocking to me, the fact that, the numeric thing where fields should have been blank that weren't blank, that was pretty shocking stuff. But the bigger question that I think Arpaio raised is the national security issues with Hawaii. What they found out about Hawaii is basically a factory for producing fraudulent birth certificates and handing out citizenship to people who don't warrant it. And you would think that those Republican congressmen who say they care about things like this, if they're afraid of the birther issue, they would at least take a look at Hawaii's policies, which are in direct violation of federal regulations, and do something about that. But, of course, I'm not holding my breath.
Wow. Another amazing interview with Joseph Farah, one of many to come, I hope, if society doesn't crumble around us. Very interesting points you've raised today. Thank you, sir.
All right. Good to be with you, Alex.
All right, thank you. Good to be with you. Let me say bye to you right here at the break. Then we're going to bring Bob Dacy in here and get deep into the UN history of disarmament. This is about enslaving people. What the communists and authoritarians and fascists always do. We're going to break down the UN gun grab.
This is Alex.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen, and in studio is my longtime friend. I've had to know him like 13, 14 years. He's even a sponsor on the radio show a long time ago with his gun shop and hardware store. He's one of those evil entrepreneurs. And if you go to the front page of Infowars.com, you can see Obama talking to a child about evil entrepreneurs. It's a very special image at Infowars.com for radio listeners. It is a child, or it's a real photo, building blocks. And he says, you didn't build that. No, North Korean leader Kim Jong-il did, because we all know government-run systems create such wondrous things in every case in history. We're just supposed to ignore the nightmares that they quickly generate. Now, Bob Dacy is a writer for the New American Magazine, and he also hosts a radio show, TV show, you name it, throughout the years. But he's also a concealed carry teacher and has a gun shop and a successful family-owned evil hardware store in North Austin. In fact, many years ago when I first got on the air, like 16, 17 years ago, he had a hardware store about 500 yards away and was one of our first sponsors. And here he is with us because, you know, you learn so much over the years, but then you create files, documents, films, and then you try to go back and get it all together again. There's so many Obama quotes, Sarah Brady quotes, Eric Holder quotes about we're going to ban your guns, we're going to get them. The cities they get control of, New York, Chicago, total gun bans. They want to ban our guns. I mean, Sarah Brady said on the floor of the House, before we can have a socialist America, we must ban all civilian ownership of guns. Unidir, September 7th, July 7th, 2001, said civilian ownership of firearms threatens the legitimate power monopoly of the state. We want the total abolition. State Department Memorandum 7277, which is still U.S. policy, says total global disarmament except for the UN. You imagine how hellish that is so they can love us all. And look, Bob has a copy of 7277 here. I mean, actual... I even have one of the blue booklets around here somewhere, but he has a photocopy of one. We're going to show you these exhibits if you're watching at prisonplanet.tv. We're fighting the prison planet at prisonplanet.tv. It's 15 cents a day. We've got a 15-day free trial going, but it's not even about you joining. Later, we post the next day, you know, the YouTubes for everybody at InfoWars. You can just follow along with us if you're an XM listener or listening on the over 100 stations out there. Just know that by tomorrow, we'll have this video of this live show posted for you if you're not watching it live at prisonplanet.tv. We don't make you support us like George Soros that gets banker bailout money and then funds fake media watchdog groups calling for us to be shut down, run by the White House. But we're here fighting their tyranny, and they don't like it. So I'm going to try now to just sit back and have Bob go over gun control, go over the fact that this UN treaty, just as the law of the sea, this is the Hill newspaper, the big congressional newspaper, Vice Admiral Robert R. Monroe says it will hand over our sovereignty to a global government. Ratification of law of the sea advances world government. World government is real, okay? And who runs it? The bankers. Paul Watson has a key article out today that is so important.